4 families, 4 returns, 18 months. They all said the same thing about this 110-pound red Doberman. He doesn't bond. He doesn't let anyone in. What they didn't know, what nobody told them, is that he was letting them in the whole time. They just didn't know how to look. They called him a weapon, a 110-pound Doberman that 4 families surrendered in 18 months. Not because he attacked anyone, not because he destroyed anything, but because he refused, completely and utterly, to let anyone in. We got the call on a Tuesday morning. A Doberman, male, 4 years old, just surrendered for the 4th time. The shelter worker's voice carried that specific kind of tired that only comes from telling the same story too many times. He's not aggressive, she said. He's just closed. And even after doing this work for so long, those are the ones that stay with you the most. Nero was supposed to live a completely different life. The first family got him as a puppy, trained him, invested in him. But when things changed, they said he didn't adjust well. The second family returned him after 3 weeks, the third after 5 days, the fourth lasted 2 months, the longest. And when they brought him back, they didn't even come inside. They handed the leash through the door and left without looking back. What made Nero different wasn't his size, though at 110 pounds, he was impossible to ignore. It wasn't even the color of his coat, not the classic black and tan most people expect from a Doberman, but a deep reddish brown, like burnished copper in low light, something you didn't see often, something that made people stop and look twice. What made Nero different was his eyes, because while everything about his body said power, his eyes told a completely different story. Soft and uncertain, like he was the one trying to figure out if you were safe. That's how he found his way to Daniel. Daniel wasn't looking for a dog. He lived alone in a small house on the edge of a quiet street in Columbus, Ohio, worked long hours, came home to silence. A friend had forwarded him the shelter post almost as a joke. "This one looks like you," the message said. Daniel showed up the next morning. The shelter worker warned him, 4 returns, doesn't bond, keeps distance, possibly trauma history. He might never fully come around, she said. Daniel looked at Nero through the kennel fence, that reddish-brown coat, those uncertain eyes, and said, "I'll take him." I see you still haven't subscribed. That honestly breaks my heart a little. Hit subscribe now. You won't regret it. The first weeks were exactly what the shelter warned about. Nero was present but unreachable. He would eat, sleep, exist, but always at the edges of whatever room Daniel was in, close enough to watch, far enough to disappear if needed. Daniel tried everything at first, getting down on the floor, offering treats, sitting quietly for hours. None of it moved Nero closer. None of it moved him further away either. He just watched, always watching. Stories like this remind us why patience is its own kind of love. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel stopped trying to close the distance and simply started living, cooking dinner, reading, watching television, and letting Nero decide how much space existed between them on any given night. Some nights it was the full length of the living room. Some nights it was closer. Daniel learned not to track it too closely, not to hope too loudly. What nobody tells you about dogs like Nero is that the distance isn't coldness. It isn't damage exactly. It's something more like a question that never fully gets answered. Can I trust this? Is this real? Will it last? Because Nero had learned 4 times over that the answer was no. There were small things, if you paid attention. The way he positioned himself each night, never beside Daniel on the couch, but always facing the front door, always between Daniel and whatever might come through it. The way he'd lift his head when Daniel came home, just once before settling back down. The way he carried himself through the house, slowly, directly, like he was asking permission just by being there. And then, one night, something shifted. Daniel had fallen asleep on the couch, which he did sometimes after long days. He woke sometime past 3 a.m. to a weight he didn't recognize. Nero had moved from his usual spot across the room. He wasn't touching Daniel. There was still space, still that careful distance, but he was close, closer than he'd ever been, lying on the floor beside the couch, facing the door, that reddish-brown coat dark in the low light. Daniel didn't move, didn't reach out, didn't say anything. By morning, Nero was back across the room. And that's the thing nobody tells you about dogs like him. He never fully closed the distance. There were no dramatic breakthroughs, no moment where everything suddenly changed and Nero became a different dog. He remained who he was, watchful, careful, present at the edges. But the edges moved. Slowly, quietly, on his own terms, they moved. Some evenings now, he'll walk up to Daniel slowly, directly, and just stand there, not asking for anything obvious, just standing. And if Daniel reaches out carefully, never grabbing, never sudden, Nero will stay, just for a moment, long enough to feel like something. Then he steps back to his distance. And somehow, that seems to be enough for both of them. What stays with me isn't just how guarded he is. It's that underneath all of it, underneath 4 returns and 4 goodbyes, and 4 people who handed back the leash, there is still something in him that keeps showing up, that keeps positioning itself between Daniel and the door every single night, that keeps asking, in the quietest possible way, if maybe this time it's real. Animals like Nero remind you that being closed off isn't the same as being broken, that distance isn't the same as not caring, that some creatures have simply learned to love carefully, and that careful love, offered from the edges, is still love. And honestly, I think a lot of us understand that more than we'd like to admit. So if this story stayed with you, if something in it felt familiar, I'd really love to know what part you felt the most. Is this about trust, or is it about time? Tell me in the comments.